From heartbreaking losses to high-profile scandals and citywide celebrations, 2022 generated many headlines that will stick with us for years to come. Hi there, I'm digital anchor Brandy Smith. In this KHOU 11 Plus special, we are looking back at the top 11 stories of the year, along with some honorable mentions. These are all stories we've covered at length, so if you're looking for any more in-depth coverage, be sure to check out KHOU.com. Also, while I have your attention, would you mind liking and subscribing? That way you'll be one of the first to get access to new videos when we share them. On May 12th, a Texas inmate escaped off a prison transport bus, eventually killing 5 members of a Tomball family weeks later as investigators narrowed in on his location. Gonzalo Lopez died in a shootout with police after they caught him driving Mark Collins' farm truck, stolen from the Leon County property where Mark and his grandsons Waylon, Carson, Bryson, and Hudson were found dead. The Tomball community rallied around the Collins family, hundreds filling the funeral service for the boys and their grandfather. On that day, June 11th, Adam Bennett explained why the father of 3 of the boys says he is at peace.
This public service lasted more than 2 hours. It was a celebration of those 5 lives and an invitation to practice the faith supporting the Collins family. This morning at Champion Forest Baptist Church, friends, relatives, and mourners honored 5 lives taken last week.
This is devastation.
In an act the family called pure evil.
And while we're hurting more than we could ever possibly imagine, we will be okay.
Chris Collins is the father of 18-year-old Waylon, 16-year-old Carson, and 11-year-old Hudson.
Even that night before we had all the information and knew anything, I looked up in my backyard and I said, God, tell me my babies are okay. And almost audibly, I could hear, they're okay, I've got them, they're okay. No, it was not the okay that a flesh and blood father wanted. But in that moment, I had the most supernatural peace that I'd ever had in my entire life.
The family said they've been overwhelmed by the love shown to their family during this time of overwhelming loss.
We could literally open up 3 restaurants with all the food that you guys have donated.
Michael Collins is the oldest brother of Mark Collins, the boy's grandfather.
He's a man of faith, integrity, honesty, trustworthy, charitable, fair, a man of his word.
Pastor Robert Stokes said the 3 young brothers and their cousin, 11-year-old Bryson, enjoyed sports, loved their family, and led by example.
There's a trend happening here. A great heart for people and love to people well.
And, Chris Collins said, they had faith.
Each and every one of them did, in fact, have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's where we get our peace. We will see them again.
Resting easy, he says, knowing it's only goodbye for now. Adam Bennett, KHOU 11 News.
On December 8th, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice released its final report on how Lopez escaped. Gerald Harris broke down the findings.
The Gonzalo Lopez escape report blames staffing issues in personnel and in training for his escape. On May 2nd, Lopez was scheduled for a trip to the doctor's office. The final report details correctional officers failing to perform strip searches and properly restrain Lopez, who was serving back-to-back life sentences for shooting a Webb County, Texas sheriff's deputy in 2004 and killing a man with a pickaxe in Hidalgo County after holding him ransom on a drug debt. At 11:11 a.m., a transport bus left with 3 seats for officers, but only 2 officers left with inmates at the Hughes unit located in Gatesville, Texas, en route to the Estelle unit near Huntsville, where it is reported inmates began instigating loud noises and banging while blocking the rearview mirror of a correctional officer driving the bus. Witnesses report Lopez was able to remove his restraints and break and enter the restrictive housing compartment in the front of the bus. During a struggle, Lopez attempted to reach for one of the correctional officer's gun. After a struggle, both fell, and Lopez began stabbing one of the officers with an 8 to 10-inch metal weapon, and subsequently got the officer's handgun. A bullet hole in glass is seen shattered on the bus. For weeks, law enforcement attempted to track Lopez. On June 2nd, Lopez's DNA was discovered at a home in Leon County, where he killed 5 people. Lopez would later die in a shootout with sheriff's deputies near San Antonio. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice identified officers who failed to fulfill their transportation duties and training.
There has to be accountability. There has to be resources for whatever measures need to be taken. You either pay now with a proper budget, or you'll pay later, and it could easily be with your lives and certainly lives of innocent victims.
TDCJ disciplined more than 20 staff members and supervisors for failing to comply with policy. The agency also issued corrective action, which included mandating 3 officers escort inmates, better training, and better recruitment and retention of officers. The full report, as well as our continuing coverage of the case, can be found on KHOU.com. Another story that captivated the Houston area was the search for Nadia Lee, which continues as we're recording this the last week of December. Texas EquiSearch spent several days searching for the 2-year-old girl around her father's Pasadena apartment, in a nearby park, a bayou, and in a landfill. Nadia's father, Jiron Lee, is accused of killing his wife and Nadia. A traveling nurse from Houston caused a deadly crash in Los Angeles, according to police there. On August 4th, they say Nicole Linton was speeding up to 130 miles an hour when she plowed into a busy LA intersection, hitting 2 cars and killing 6 people. Those victims included a woman, her young son, and her unborn child. Linton pleaded not guilty. A popular rapper lost his life in Houston, killed outside a downtown bowling alley on November 1st. Takeoff was 1/3 of the Atlanta-based group Migos. He was with his uncle Quavo at 810 Billiards and Bowling when shots were fired and Takeoff fell. Jason Miles reported from the scene that day.
Flowers left in his memory sit 2 floors below the spot where Houston police say rapper Takeoff died in the Green Street Entertainment Complex, where officers descended around 2:30 a.m.
They're charging firearms or shooting, not sure which. Just until at Dallas, all I heard gunshots and people screaming.
Born Kirshnik Kali Ball in Atlanta, the member of hip-hop group Migos was just 28.
It hurts, especially more because he performed at the House of Blues probably somewhat years ago. So it happened near a venue that he performed at.
As fans mourn, HPD is at work on behalf of the community and the victim's mother, with whom Chief Troy Finner says he spoke.
I got many calls from Houston and outside of Houston, and everyone spoke of what a great young man this is.
The department is trying to determine exactly what led up to the shooting and track down any of the 40 or so people at the private event believed to have possibly witnessed it.
What if it was your brother? What if it was your son? You would want somebody to step up. So please step up.
There is speculation about a dice game that may have been involved in the incident, but HPD considers that hearsay at the moment and part of an investigation involving yet another young life lost.
There are too many young men of color that are killing young men of color. And we do need to have that conversation. We do need to deal with it head on.
There are numerous surveillance cameras around the Green Street complex, and those are being examined along with videos shared on social media.
On December 2nd, Houston police announced they'd tracked down the person who killed Takeoff, Patrick Clark. Grace White dug into the search warrant that revealed how investigators tied Clark to the shooting.
We know who was on the scene.
It's an investigation we now know was pieced together by surveillance video. In search warrants obtained by KHOU 11 Investigates, police seized Patrick Clark's cell phone, looking for evidence. They also searched Clark's truck and seized 2 guns, a pistol, and a rifle, along with a MacBook, parking receipt, and passport photo.
There is probable cause for your arrest in your particular case.
When Clark appeared in court, prosecutors say he tried to run to Mexico, saying he applied for an expedited passport after the shooting. But it was surveillance video and forensics that led to Clark's arrest. Court documents revealing they have him on video shooting and holding a wine bottle in his other hand. That wine bottle he left behind, and on it, police found his fingerprints. The court documents also explain the reason for the argument that led to the shooting, stating there was a dice game going on inside where someone lost a large amount of money. Investigators say the video shows 34 people standing outside the downtown bowling alley and Takeoff's fellow Migos member Quavo arguing with 2 men who had won the dice game. One of those men is Cameron Joshua, now charged with felon in possession of a weapon. But what's not clear from the court documents is why Clark opened fire.
Takeoff was not involved in playing in the dice game. He was not involved in the argument that happened outside. He was not armed. He was an innocent bystander.
A judge granted Clark's request for $5,000 to hire a private investigator to help with his defense. The judge also reduced Clark's bond from $2 million to $1 million on December 14th. For all the details and backstory on this case, or to read more about the life and legacy of Takeoff, head to KHOU.com. How many of us experienced or saw situations like this play out on the roads this year? In August, KHOU 11 looked at TxDOT data about road rage crashes, and it revealed the number of incidents had increased considerably since 2018. DPS says if you end up in a road rage situation, do not engage and take an immediate exit if you can. If you fear for your safety, call 911. The Houston area lost a number of law enforcement officers this year, beginning January 23rd, when Harris County Precinct 5 Corporal Charles Galloway was shot and killed during a traffic stop. He was just 47 years old and left behind an 11-year-old daughter. The gunman fired at Corporal Galloway before he could even get out of his patrol unit. Within days of the shooting, the man suspected in Corporal Galloway's murder was arrested in Ciudad Acuna, Mexico, across the border from Del Rio, Texas. He is Oscar Rosales. His common-law wife and her brother were also charged with helping him cover up the crime, a crime that infuriated so many because the victim was described as the best of the best. Melissa Correa visited a neighborhood where people say Galloway changed their lives for the better.
The phrase goes, show me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are.
He had the ability to rally the troops and hone in on everyone's positive attributes.
Charles Galloway had lots of friends.
But he was also a man that has a beautiful 11-year-old daughter.
Described as a 6'4" Texan with an even bigger smile, Charles Galloway left a six-figure finance job for law enforcement, began patrolling for Harris County Precinct 5 more than 12 years ago.
His dream was to make a difference. His dream was to serve his community, and his dream did come true. We've received more letters and cards than you could imagine.
Support from friends.
He's dearly missed.
Who considered the deputy constable family.
He knew our kids' names. He knew our dogs' names.
Knew this West Houston community so well, they're grieving too.
Everybody's been walking around half in tears all week long. We will feel the hole. There's a hole in Georgetown.
A hole in Harris County for the field training corporal who
changed the culture, mindset, and values for generations of police officers to come.
Tell me who your friends are.
He cared about you.
He was a friend.
And they'll show you who you are.
When you are a police officer like Officer Galloway, you change people's lives.
His funeral was the same week as another fallen law enforcement officer, Harris County Sergeant Ramon Gutierrez. The 20-year veteran was working an extra job as a motorcycle escort when a suspected drunk driver crashed into him, then kept going. She was arrested more than a mile from the scene. Sergeant Gutierrez left behind a wife and his 3 children. His family wants him remembered as a family man dedicated to protecting and serving his community.
My dad was the hardest working man that I know, and that's something that I'm so proud of.
The woman accused of killing Sergeant Gutierrez is Lavilla Spry. She was initially released on bond, but a judge revoked it after she was accused of violating bond conditions while awaiting trial. An eerily similar crime took the life of Harris County Precinct 7 Deputy Constable Jennifer Chavis on April 3rd. She was trying to pull over a suspected drunk driver when investigators say he slammed into her patrol car. Deputy Chavis was an Army veteran before joining the force 2 years ago. In April, Harris County commissioners voted unanimously to rename a plaza on the Sam Houston Tollway in memory of Deputy Chavis. Her husband, son, and nephew were in commissioner's court to see the vote. It was only a month later when the Harris County Sheriff's Office lost Deputy Robert Adam Howard. The 27-year-old died after clipping the back of an 18-wheeler parked on the shoulder of Tomball Parkway on May 11th. That impact split the cruiser in half.
I've known Adam since he was a little kid.
One of the proudest days that I've had was standing with him the day he swore in.
Today, as his sister, I want to tell you about my brother, who was a big old teddy bear. He was our protector.
Deputy Howard was remembered for his down-to-earth personality and his ability to find happiness both on and off duty. You can listen to more tributes from his funeral service on KHOU.com. A number of law enforcement officers also lost their lives off duty. Harris County Precinct 3 Deputy Constable Omar Urson had just picked up dinner and was headed home when a gunman pulled up next to him and opened fire. That happened in Atascocita back on August 8th. Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said Jalen Womack and Asim Taylor Jr. are charged with Deputy Urson's murder. The sheriff also said both men were out on bond stemming from separate murder charges. These three are accused of killing off-duty Deputy Darren Almendarez on March 31st. He was shot during a trip to the grocery store when he confronted thieves trying to steal the catalytic converter off his truck. Deputy Almendarez served Harris County for more than 20 years. Jason Miles shared this message from his wife.
A sorrowful farewell on a gorgeous day, upon which many believe Harris County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Almendarez was looking down. As his widow and hundreds of others paid their respects.
It says, "To my love, this is unreal."
Flor Zarzosa Almendarez read from a letter written to her husband after his death.
I can't help but to cry and want to feel your arms around me so much, my love. Babe, I miss you terribly. I can hear your voice whispering to me how much you love me.
Deputy Almendarez had just exited a Joe V's market with his wife a week ago last night when he was shot and killed, protecting her and others, investigators say, while confronting suspected thieves while off duty.
I ran to you, and your next words to me were, "I love you, babe. I can't breathe."
Longtime colleagues say service was Almendarez's nature on and off the clock.
Rest easy, my friend. You served us well.
And we must honorably carry on for him.
Only a moment you stayed, quoted the sheriff, but what an imprint you left in our hearts.
Deputy Almendarez's death prompted Texas lawmakers to crack down on criminals stealing catalytic converters. The Deputy Darren Almendarez Act would add enhancements to punishment if a person is in possession of a gun while stealing a catalytic converter. That will be considered in the 2023 legislative session. What happened to Deputy Almendarez and why motivated local law enforcement to team up to bust catalytic converter thieves. On July 28th, Anayeli Ruiz was there when officers raided 7 different locations and found more than $1 million worth of catalytic converters.
Just after 6 this morning, law enforcement from multiple agencies raided 7 different locations, seizing more than 477 stolen catalytic converters. My sources tell me this was a highly organized crime ring operating in the greater Houston area.
Come out of the home with nothing in your hands.
Investigators in heavily armed vehicles surrounded and raided multiple homes across Houston and Liberty County. Choppers and robots assisting in the pre-dawn operation.
Follow the instructions of the officers outside.
Their target? An organized crime ring police say have been stealing catalytic converters from all over.
All of Houston area, even outside of Houston, Galveston, College Station, Conroe, Huntsville. So they're traveling.
Multiple law enforcement agencies have been at this for months, trying to catch these alleged criminals. And for the Harris County Sheriff's Office, this was very important after one of their own was shot and killed in April of this year.
So we got several people. It's been a long-term investigation. Some of this stems from the death of Darren Almendarez when he got killed when they were trying to steal his catalytic converters.
The back of this home in the 5th Ward was used as a storage facility. You can see investigators pulling the stolen converters out of this window.
Nearly 400 catalytic converters were recovered at one home that was raided today.
And it's very costly. I mean, if you get your catalytic converters stolen, main target, a lot of the time it's a Toyota Tundra, but you're looking $1,800 to $3,000 to get them replaced.
Who did investigators arrest?
Our main target.
21-year-old Jose Sanchez, who is now facing state and possibly federal charges.
Are these the guys that are going out there and cutting them? Are these the guys that are, what are they doing?
So it's part of a big organized crime. We do have some cutters, and then we have some maybe some of the top people of the organization today.
Investigators say they hope that today's arrest, they're able to make a change and stop some of the thefts going on in our area.
I think we got a lot of victims that have suffered from this. It happening daily, so we're hoping that this organization, we arrest some people today. Hopefully it'll slow down in the Houston, Harris County area.
My sources tell me they recovered firearms. At least 6 people were arrested today. This was a joint operation with the Harris County Sheriff's Office, Office of Homeland Security, DPS, and HPD. But investigators tell us they're not going to stop here. They're coming after more people. Nadia Lee Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
Within a month, another raid. Our cameras were rolling as officers wheeled barrels of catalytic converters out of a home on Pepper Creek Lane in Pearland. It was one of 3 homes and 3 commercial properties where officers recovered 17 pallets of catalytic converters and other assets. While some neighbors expressed surprise, others had their suspicions.
You don't back up a box truck or a big trailer too, and you could see that they were moving stuff from the garage. Either they stored it in the garage first and then they send it out, I guess. Now it's making sense to me what was possibly going on in there.
Officers arrested 5 people, charging them with engaging in organized criminal activity. Where'd all the stolen catalytic converters come from? Well, from vehicles all over the Houston area, parked in driveways, at the gym, the airport. In most cases, the victim doesn't even know until they went to start their cars, but sometimes they caught thieves in the act, leading to shootings and chases. Now, there are things you can do to deter catalytic converter thieves. Janelle Bluda highlighted how AAA and local auto shops helped.
Some white spray paint and a bit of etching might be all it takes to keep your catalytic converter.
A crime of opportunity. It's so quick to commit. It's so lucrative. The amount of money that they're getting paid for these catalytic converters is crazy.
The crime has been on the rise in the past years as the price of precious metals skyrockets.
To date, between January and now, approximately 3,000 catalytic converters have been stolen.
AAA says recyclers will pay $50 to $250 per catalytic converter.
A cut here and a cut right there is all it takes.
But the cost to replace one could be in the thousands. So doing something as simple as etching it might help. While they hope it is a deterrent to thieves, if yours does get taken, it could also help you recover it.
None of the catalytic converters have any kind of identifying. You would never know that this came off the Toyota 4Runner.
AAA is teaming up with 9 Houston area auto shops to offer free appointments for catalytic converter etchings. But if you aren't able to snag one of those, you could get the protection for free at your next service, like an oil change. It's part of their new program.
To have our AAA approved facilities like Christian Brothers here, they will be able to have their catalytic converters etched for free at participating AAA shops all over the state when they're in for a paid service.
The sheriff's office says the etchings will give them a better chance at finding the victims and stopping the crime.
The free appointments are fully booked, but AAA says they plan to add more. They also plan to add more shops that will offer the free etching along with any paid service. You can find more information on our website, KHOU.com. Back to you.
A car accessory that protects your catalytic converter from being stolen flew off the shelves across Texas this year. The Shield costs about $200 to $500. But that's a lot cheaper than getting a stolen catalytic converter replaced, which could run you up to $2,000. Right now on KHOU.com, we have more details on the Shield and some tips to prevent catalytic converter theft. At the end of July, Houston hosted its first ever gun buyback in an effort to get weapons off the streets. The city made several changes for its second gun buyback in October, including limiting the number of guns accepted per car, adding more lines, and eliminating manufactured weapons. Those are ghost guns that weren't accepted as they were the first time. Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg did express concerns about the program, writing in a letter that its no questions asked policy may lead to unintended consequences like chain of custody evidence being destroyed and criminal investigations stalling. 3 of Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo's top staffers got slapped with indictments in April. The charges stemmed from a multi-million-dollar contract awarded to a company for vaccine research. Marcelino Benito took a closer look at the accusations.
When you have 3 staff members indicted in a single day, then you have to respond to that.
Judge Hidalgo's silence over her now indicted staffers not sitting well with her Republican colleagues on Commissioner's Court.
The public deserves answers.
A grand jury indicted Alex Trantafillis, Hidalgo's chief of staff, policy director Wallace Nader, and former policy aide Aaron Dunn. They're all facing 2 felonies for misuse of public information and tampering with a government record.
This is just the beginning of the process.
They're accused of steering an $11 million vaccine outreach contract to Felicity Pereira and Elevate Strategies, a company with little healthcare experience and ties to local Democrats.
We don't know that there's a fire there yet, because there's not been a conviction, but there is certainly the smoke with an indictment.
Previously released search warrants suggest the staffers communicated with Pereira weeks before the bid process became public, and then worked to ensure UT Health, who scored higher during the evaluation process, would not get the bid.
This is a bad contract from the beginning. It didn't smell right.
Despite Commissioner Cagle's no vote, Elevate Strategies was awarded the contract, only to have the county terminate it last September. The county's still working to get back the money it had already paid Elevate Strategies. Now, weeks after the Texas Rangers raided Hidalgo's office, KHOU legal analyst Carmen Rowe says it's clear this investigation is far from over.
Well, if I'm in her office, I'm shaking in my boots. This is not going to end well for anyone in that office who had anything to do with these contracts.
Tonight, we received statements from attorneys representing 2 of Hidalgo's 3 staffers, and both claim their clients are innocent. You can read their full statements. They're up on KHOU.com right now, and we're told all 3 will face a judge first thing tomorrow morning. Back to you.
The indictments spurred a back and forth between Judge Hidalgo and Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg. Hidalgo accused Ogg of trying to derail her re-election campaign. Gerald Harris got Ogg's response.
And I'm sorry, but I have to call this out. It is a political exercise, and it wouldn't be continuing if it weren't.
In a scathing statement, Harris County DA Kim Ogg is punching back at accusations that she's trying to tank a fellow Democrat's campaign. After Judge Lena Hidalgo said at a news conference earlier this week, Ogg is trying to pursue a political vendetta under the guise of a criminal investigation. Ogg says the comments from the top Harris County official has compelled her to speak out, and failing to do so allows a top county official in her official capacity to continue to improperly influence those people of Harris County who will serve on the jury in this case. This harms everyone, including the accused, and must stop. Ogg, who declined a request for an on-camera interview, went on to say 3 public servants while working in the county judge's office diverted an $11 million contract to a political consultant under the guise of COVID vaccine outreach, money that a more qualified bidder could have used to accomplish the worthwhile goal of increasing awareness and participation in COVID vaccination in underrepresented communities throughout Harris County. Further, Ogg says the criminal justice process is not a debate or theater, adding, "We do not fight out our differences in the streets or on social media, and I will not try this case in the court of public opinion. When all the evidence is seen by a trial court, justice will prevail. Our work continues."
In December, Judge Hidalgo tweeted the announcement that Alex Trantafillis, her chief of staff, was moving on. She was reelected the month before, narrowly defeating Republican challenger Alexandra Mealer. But the Harris County Election Administration faces multiple investigations from the governor's office, the Harris County Republican Party, and, the district attorney's office. Republicans want to know why some polling places opened late on November 8th and how it's possible that others ran out of ballot paper. While Hidalgo says there is always room for improvement, she's calling on elected officials to stop pandering to conspiracy theories. A story that spilled from 2021 into 2022, the sexual misconduct allegations against former Houston Texans quarterback DeShaun Watson. The year kicked off with depositions in the case, and this report from Jason Miles.
Attorney Tony Busby is representing more than 20 women, some seen here in a previous court appearance, who are suing Texan star DeShaun Watson, claiming he sexually assaulted them during massages. Busby revealed details of a deposition in this news release, which includes excerpts of testimony from a woman who allegedly worked closely with the Texans.
And the information we received is very disturbing.
KHOU legal analyst Carmen Rowe read over the transcript in which the woman pleads the fifth against self-incrimination dozens of times, to questions about setting up massages for Watson, to others regarding supposed sexual proclivities. One thing she did answer is that she'd known Texans players for a long time.
And there's definitely some suggestion that the Texans management may have been aware of or complicit in some of these allegations. But again, these are just questions from a lawyer. And so it has to be tempered with that information. There's no basis, in fact, at this time to suggest that that's true.
Rose says she'd never release details of a deposition in an ongoing case, but Busby is known for being unconventional.
Criminal cases and civil cases are a little different in this regard, but I think it's rare and it's unusual because there are ethical obligations that attorneys have not to put things out into the media that may impact a jury down the road.
According to Busby, 13 of the 22 plaintiffs he represents have been questioned under oath by Watson's legal team, and that Watson himself is scheduled for deposition late next month.
A grand jury cleared Watson of any criminal charges in March. Grace White was there when Watson finally broke his silence about the case.
DeShaun Watson told us he knows this is far from over, but today he says was a big day, and it was the first time we'd heard from him in more than a year.
I just first want to say it's definitely a very emotional moment for me.
An emotional DeShaun Watson speaking for the first time after a Harris County grand jury declined to indict him. There were 9 criminal complaints alleging sexual misconduct. Grand jurors no-billed him on all of them.
I'm going to keep fighting to rebuild my name and rebuild my appearance in the community.
And the fight now heads to civil court. While the grand jury was meeting, civil depositions for 2 women accusers took place. Their attorney, Tony Busby, took issue with Watson pleading the Fifth.
What it's been is hide the ball from the very beginning, and to suggest that he didn't answer questions because he was going to incriminate himself for some proceeding that's completely separate from this is not credible.
But that will end next week, says Watson's attorney, Rusty Hardin.
I have said all along that when the criminal investigation was completed, we would answer their question.
And to the fans who may have lost faith in him, the NFL quarterback says he's ready to get back on the field.
I still love my fans, even the ones that believe the other side or whatnot, but at the same time, things are, happen for a reason, and people are entitled to their own opinions. But, today, justice was served for us.
The depositions will continue Tuesday, those for 2 of the 22 women who have filed civil lawsuits. Grace White, KHOU 11 News.
Watson settled with 20 of those accusers and maintains he did nothing wrong. Then in July, attorney Tony Busby announced 30 women he represents settled with the Houston Texans. The NFL suspended Watson for 11 games, a suspension that lifted just in time for the QB to make his Cleveland Browns debut in Houston. Yes, his first game back, he faced his former team. The Browns won that one, 27-14. The Texas coast avoided any major hurricanes this year, but the monster Cat 4 Ian devastated parts of Florida. As the storm was making landfall, KHOU 11 meteorologist Cheetah Craft was on board a hurricane hunter's flight. You can watch her full story on KHOU.com. This was the moment WNBA star Brittney Griner got off a plane in Texas after being detained in Russia for 10 months. The Houston native was arrested in February. And when that arrest went public in March, Ana Yeli Ruiz spoke to Griner's connections here.
She was a star for Nimitz High School, as well as she was the Texas Gatorade Player of the Year.
Former Nimitz High School coach Debbie Jackson remembers Brittney Griner with so much love.
She's just such a happy person, a good teammate. She was very humble. You would never know she was a superstar.
But she's very concerned to hear Brittney was arrested in Russia back in February.
Of course, worries me and everybody that knows her, because we just don't know the facts.
The Federal Customs Service of Russia telegram releasing this video. In a statement, they said a U.S. citizen was passing through the Green Channel and a customs dog detected possible presence of a narcotic substance in her carry-on luggage. After scanning her bag, the officers noticed vapes, and they say they found cartridges containing liquid hash oil or cannabis oil, which is a narcotic substance. And they go on to say a criminal case was initiated against this citizen, who Russian media identified as Brittney Griner, something Debbie just doesn't understand.
Did Brittney do this, or is she a political pawn? Was it planted? Because that just didn't make any sense to me at all.
Griner has played for Russia during her off season for the last 7 years.
Young American women that go over, they don't get paid that much here, so that's why they go overseas.
In a statement, the State Department spokesperson says they are aware of reports of a U.S. citizen arrested in Moscow. Whenever a U.S. citizen is arrested overseas, they stand ready to provide all appropriate consular services. In the meantime, her friends and family are all praying she's released soon and can come back home.
Hey, I hope that discipline and that grit you have to be successful, I hope that's helping her through whatever she's going through in Russia right now.
Nadia Lee Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
In July, Griner pleaded guilty and admitted to bringing cannabis oil into Russia. During her trial, Griner told the court she didn't mean to break the country's laws, and the cartridges accidentally ended up in her luggage as she packed in a hurry. In August, she learned her sentence: 9 years in prison. She was transferred to a penal colony to serve her time. The Biden administration had already been in talks to bring Griner home, and in December, a prisoner swap was made. Russia released Griner in exchange for Victor Boot, an arms dealer. Matt Doherty broke down how that trade went down.
Happy? Well, are you ready for a flight? Yes.
In this video taken by Russia's state media today, Brittney Griner didn't seem to know what was happening.
Do you know where I'm heading to? No. No? No. You fly back home? To the U.S. To the U.S. Okay.
Griner was imprisoned in Russia for almost 300 days, convicted of drug smuggling following a Russian court trial in August. Griner testified she mistakenly packed cannabis oil in her luggage.
Glad to be able to say that.
This morning, President Biden announced her release was part of a prisoner swap. Convicted arms dealer Victor Boot was returned to Russia as part of the deal.
It's the best Christmas present ever.
Back in Griner's hometown of Houston, it was a day to celebrate. Debbie Jackson, who coached the player before she was a star at Nimitz High School, is ecstatic.
Then the phone rang and I picked it up, and I was just overjoyed. I was ready to get out of bed and jump up and down. It's so exciting.
Countless others, including fellow WNBA players, shared in the joy and relief.
And I feel so joyful because our sister is finally free. This is a huge moment for everyone who has shown compassion, who have shown empathy for our WNBA sister over the last 294 days.
Pop over to KHOU.com for our complete coverage of Griner's arrest, the fight for her release, and her return home. A decades-long mystery was solved in 2022 when DNA identified the bodies of a couple found in a wooded area off Wallaceville Road back in 1981. Harold Dean Klaus Jr. and his wife Tina had just moved to Houston when they disappeared all those years ago, along with their then one-year-old daughter Holly Marie. One question answered. The next one was, where was that baby? Only the couple's bodies were found. We got that update in June when investigators shared this photo of adult Holly holding a picture of herself as a baby. This was a wild story with a lot of twists and turns. You can dig into it more on KHOU.com. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner made a shocking announcement during his State of the City address in November that he'd been diagnosed with cancer over the summer. He says it's a rare form of bone cancer. The mayor says he went through radiation every single morning, Monday through Friday, for 6 weeks from August 1st through September 12th. Watch Len Cannon's full interview with Mayor Turner on our KHOU 11 YouTube channel. Now to the boil water notice that crippled America's fourth largest city for days in November. This map shows the area impacted, but not the more than 2 million people who couldn't use tap water. A power outage led to a drop in pressure at the East Water Purification Plant, prompting the alert on Sunday night. Jeremy Rogalski learned the city's backup power plan was essentially moot.
When Mayor Turner first heard of a power disruption at the city's East Water Purification Plant,
the question that I immediately asked,
that the generators kick on.
The city has a long-term $56 million contract with NRG to have heavy-duty diesel generators at its water treatment plants. And NRG tells us all 32 of those units were available and ready to dispatch. But the city never asked NRG to turn them on.
We did not call for the backup generators, but they would not have made a difference.
Public Works Director Carol Haddock says that's because the supply of power wasn't the issue. The grid was up and running, but rather the two transformers that malfunctioned inside the plant couldn't connect to a power source.
So even if the backup generators had been on, we would have had the same problem.
The city's primary focus, resetting those failed transformers, which took more than an hour.
You can connect to the grid where the power was running, and you can connect to your generators. Then you have a very unique and unfortunate situation.
As the city waited for water testing results to come back, Zach Tawatari visited affected businesses.
Inside this Heights hotspot,
what would y'all like? Do you want anything to drink to start?
It appears to be business as usual, but look a little closer.
It is bottled water today.
And you'll see just a few of the changes Harold's in the Heights owner, Allie Jarrett, has had to make since the boil water notice took effect last night.
So lots of moving parts with water, and you can't take it for granted, that's for sure.
Over 1,000 pounds of ice, canned sodas, and dozens of cases of bottled water were just a start. They've needed to modify everything from cooking to washing hands and dishes.
Being a small business owner, I think we are nimble and get into action and try to find solutions to our problems because we have them, and we've got to make sure that we can open up.
Across Houston, we found some bigger chains were closed and others that remained open. Another local spot, the French Riviera Bakery and Cafe on Chimney Rock, was open because they said they invested about $6 grand in a filtration system and UV sterilizer after being frustrated by past boil water notices.
We already had water filtration in place. The way that the plumber set it up, all we had to do was just add the UV lights in front of it. We can continue to operate and not hurt our bottom lines and keep the staff here working as well.
And as they wait for the notice to be lifted, Allie says they'll keep finding a way.
You know, it's supposed to lift tomorrow, but you don't know.
Our KHOU 11 Investigates team dug into this. You can watch their in-depth reports on khou.com/investigations. Southeast Texas parents struggled to find alternatives after a baby formula shortage hit the U.S. In February, formula maker Abbott's largest plant shut down for possible contamination. Before that, Abbott was responsible for 40% of domestic baby formula. Also in February, formula manufacturers said they alerted retailers to an upcoming shortage. It reached the point that we were tracking planes with formula on board as they landed in Texas. Battleship Texas made a big move on August 31st to a temporary home in Galveston where it will get repaired. It was an incredible journey. We watched from the ground along the route and from the air using drones and Air 11. Adam Bennett spoke with those who came on land and water to see it.
As a new day came to life, a new era began for the Battleship Texas. Tugboats pulled the dreadnought out of San Jacinto Battleground State Historic Site for the first time in more than 3 decades, and for the last time ever.
It's really good to feel the ship's deck alive under the foot.
The U.S. Coast Guard enforced a 1,000-foot safety zone around the battleship.
And it's a pretty historic moment, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Nathan Gershon served on the ship's escort team on the water. Gershon grew up in the Houston area, but made the 3-hour trip from his current home in Corpus Christi.
As a member of the Texas Navy, I keep up with this sort of stuff, and I'm just a fan.
As the battleship cruised through Baytown mid-morning, drivers stopped above the water and alongside it
to see it actually happening, unbelievable.
To take one last look.
This is amazing. I hate to see it leave, but hey, we all need repairs.
To understand the significance of the move, you really have to look back at the legacy of Battleship Texas. Jason Miles gave us a history lesson.
It's been more than 8 decades since Giulio Sacagni served aboard Battleship Texas, a young man, like so many, thrust into war.
From February 1940 to July of 1942.
The 100-year-old wanted to see the ship off on her latest mission to a dry dock in Galveston for much-needed repairs.
It used to be a real first-class ship when I was on board it.
He was on board some 30 years after the USS Texas began her distinguished naval career, serving in both world wars and being the first ship to do many things, including launching an aircraft.
When she was launched and commissioned into service, she was the most fierce warship at the time.
The Texas became another first in 1948, the nation's first battleship museum following a grassroots fundraising campaign. With the exception of a previous repair job, that's where she remained until today. In Galveston, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
We got a tour of the ship before its move. You can tag along on KHOU.com. In May, the Memorial Park Conservancy celebrated the opening of its tunnels along Memorial Drive. They run under a land bridge, which provides a safe crossing for wildlife and pedestrian. That project took years. 2022 marked the return of some of Houston's iconic events after years of cancellations. And it all started with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Janelle Bluda was there for day one.
We did the barbecue, cook-off, the trail rides, and the parade. Now it's time to rodeo. Those who are here today say Houston Rodeo is back and better than ever.
It was March 11, 2020. Anna Drews was on the showroom floor with her lamb when the announcement was made.
Very hectic. There were a lot of people, and nobody really knew what was going on.
Rodeo Houston was canceled only days after it began. But today, 2 years later, it's back, and so is Anna, along with Bonnie and Caroline.
It's just a good environment. I love just seeing all the other animals and being able to compete. Even if I don't win, it's just a good experience.
From the livestock show to the carnival and, of course, the funnel cakes, Rodeo Houston is chock full of things to do, and this year it's got even more.
And then hold for me.
New features include interactive photo booths, a Coca-Cola ice house, and a brand new fine dining restaurant right outside the stadium.
It makes it so much nicer. I mean, you can get a hot dog, you can get some pizza, whatever, but to come down and have a fine dining experience is amazing.
Inside the stadium, it was round one of the Rodeo Super Series. After that, Cody Johnson took the stage as this year's opening performer. His fourth time at Houston Rodeo, his little fans clearly excited.
Listening to Cody Johnson's song.
His songs? What's your favorite song?
If you got a chance, take it.
Can you sing it for me? Tomorrow night is Keith Urban. Gates open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Back to you.
Flash forward to June, when one of the biggest Pride celebrations in the country happened in Houston. Zach Tawatari showed us the huge crowds that showed up for the 44th annual Houston Pride LGBT+ celebration.
Despite a 2-year absence, Houston's Pride celebration stayed true to its themes. The beat goes on.
It feels like home. It feels like a place where everybody's accepted.
The third biggest Pride festivity in the country making its way through downtown Houston, with plenty of security and lines that stretched around the block.
The way I look at it is if the line's long, that means a lot of people are attending, and that's awesome.
Medical care addressing one of the biggest concerns coming into the weekend, the heat, with plenty of water on hand.
I know you hot. I was hot. We had like 5 to 10 different water bottles. I lost track.
Family, friends, and community standing in solidarity.
Just to have people to support you, especially through everything that's going on right now.
But even with the festivities ringing across the city, for some attendees, the political landscape and the potential implications of Friday's ruling too loud to ignore.
I am legally married to my wife, and if they come through with that, it's for me, it's not right. Because honestly, it's like we don't even know what's to come now.
But today, a celebration of coming together.
You're not going to find a more loving place than Pride.
Speaking of parades, the rain couldn't stop the HEB Thanksgiving Day Parade this year. 2022 marked the parade's 73rd year, making it one of the oldest Thanksgiving Day parades in the country. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson served as this year's Grand Marshal. Adam Bennett has a look at the grand return.
Another successful Thanksgiving Day parade is in the books. You know, this is the first one we've gotten to enjoy in 3 years because of COVID in 2020, the lightning last year, but people here today tell us it was worth the wait.
On Thanksgiving morning, in the streets and stands of downtown Houston, there was excitement and hope from people here to watch the parade.
We came last year, had our front row seats,
and take part in it.
Last year we got rained out, so we're crossing our fingers.
That the third time's the charm, 3 years after the last HEB Thanksgiving Day parade. Not long after Grand Marshal Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, amped up the crowd, they heard the roar of confetti cannons instead of thunder. And the parade was on. 20 blocks featuring 20 balloons, 14 floats, half of them new, and marching bands. A brief downpour sent some parade goers heading for the exits, but most stuck around to see what came next. A performance by Houston rapper Bun B, plus a celebration of the diverse cultures, well-known organizations, and familiar faces in the community, plus major accomplishments in the nation's 4th largest city.
we had a blast, which is awesome.
Worth it though?
Yeah.
The continuation of a Houston tradition.
I have been coming down here since I was a kid.
And a chance to build memories with the next generation.
What was your favorite part?
Grandpa riding in the parade.
We really enjoyed it. Dances were amazing, and I loved all the floats.
While looking forward to the next holiday. Adam Bennett, KHOU 11 News.
Excited. We're excited. That's right. We're the elite.
The elite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Elite 8. The elite 8. Yeah, that would be us. The elite 8. Go KHOU.
Now let's talk about the big dance, the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and the Cougs' trip to the Elite 8. The postseason run got University of Houston fans fired up, and it wrapped up when U of H lost to Villanova. Just a reminder, the Final Four is coming to Houston in 2023, and this will be the 4th time Houston has hosted the Final Four, 3rd time at NRG. You'll be able to watch many of those games on the CBS network, which includes KHOU 11. We're wrapping up this 2022 special with the citywide celebration after the Astros won their 2nd World Series. They popped and poured champagne in the locker room after beating the Phillies in Game 6. Meantime, Cheryl Mercedes met fans who lined up to get their hands on championship gear.
Fans have lined up since before the game even started, well into the evening, early into the morning, to get their hands on a number of items that just simply say world champions. Astros are the world champions. The good news is if they run out, there'll be more on the way. I'm told many more shipments are headed here, and there'll be more to buy before Christmas.
I'm just looking forward to seeing all the fans, just them cheering us on.
Tens of thousands of people from all walks of life lined downtown streets on November 7th to say thank you to the Astros for bringing another title to the Bayou City. The championship parade was a party like no other. Maria Aguilera showed us what it looked like from above.
Space City over the moon with the Astros' 2022 World Series win. Hundreds of thousands of fans lined the streets and packed downtown Houston to celebrate and support the home team on their big win. From the sky, a view of just how many people showed up for the Astros' 2nd victory parade. And while crowds were down on the streets, others filled parking garages to get a good view. One you couldn't miss, the huge Astros ball. It made its way down the parade route. The Sky Bridge, packed with people who found a good spot from above to catch the action. And they saved the best for last. The world champions, Houston Astros. Chaz McCormick holding up the 2017 championship trophy, next to other champs like Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Christian Vasquez, and right behind them, the 2022 World Series championship trophy, held by Astros manager Dusty Baker. In that same float, Justin Verlander and his family, Lance McCullers, and Alex Bregman. In the back there, Yuli Gurriel and Jose Altuve. Taking in the moment, soaking up all the love from the city they represent. In Houston, Maria Aguilera, KHOU 11 News.
That does it for the top 11 stories of 2022. If you want a dose of some more good news, we've got you covered. Check out this KHOU 11 Plus special on YouTube or the KHOU 11 Plus app on Fire TV and Roku. It's almost an hour of local stories that will give you all the feels. Again, that's available for free wherever you're watching this special. That's a wrap on 2022. See you next year.